I never thought the hardest day of my life would begin with a single envelope sitting on my kitchen table. There was no warning, no argument, and no dramatic moment leading up to it. Just a quiet morning when I walked downstairs and saw my wife staring at me with tears in her eyes. For months, I had felt something was different. She was distant, distracted, and constantly worried, but every time I asked what was wrong, she smiled and told me everything was fine. I wanted to believe her because after 12 years together, trusting her felt natural. But that morning, she finally admitted there was a truth she had been hiding from me. She pushed the envelope forward and whispered, "Before you decide what you think of me, you need to know why I did this." I opened it expecting the worst, but what I discovered was something I never could have imagined. Inside were documents connected to a secret legal battle involving my wife's family. Years earlier, her father had been accused of financial crimes, and she had spent months trying to uncover what really happened. The reason she had been distant wasn't because she stopped caring about our marriage. It was because she had discovered evidence that could completely change her family's future. She had been meeting with investigators, reviewing old records, and following a trail of missing money that had affected dozens of people. The person I thought she was hiding from me wasn't another relationship. It was a dangerous situation she believed would put me at risk if I became involved. But as I read through the documents, I still felt hurt. Not because she had tried to help her family, but because she had decided I wasn't someone she could trust with the truth. The next evening, I met the investigator whose name appeared throughout the documents. He explained that my wife had been protecting a witness who was afraid to come forward. The entire investigation depended on keeping information private until enough evidence was collected. He admitted that my wife had repeatedly wanted to tell me everything but feared that one wrong conversation could ruin months of work. "She wasn't trying to shut you out," he said. "She was trying to shield you from something bigger than both of you." I listened carefully, but I couldn't ignore the pain of realizing how many nights I had spent wondering if our marriage was falling apart while she carried a secret alone. The truth had finally arrived, but it didn't erase the damage caused by the silence between us. A week later, everything changed when the final evidence was revealed. The person responsible for the financial scheme wasn't a stranger. It was someone my wife and I had both trusted for years. The betrayal reached deeper than either of us expected, and suddenly I understood why she had been afraid. She hadn't been hiding a mistake. She had been trying to expose someone who believed they were untouchable. But as the authorities prepared to make arrests, my wife looked at me and said something I would never forget. "I was so focused on protecting everyone else that I forgot the one person who needed honesty from me the most." For the first time in months, I saw the person I married. Not someone keeping secrets, but someone who had made a painful choice and finally realized the cost of making it alone. The days that followed were a blur of meetings, documents, and difficult conversations. Investigators uncovered years of hidden transactions, false records, and carefully planned deception. The person responsible had built a convincing image of trust while quietly taking advantage of everyone around them. When the truth finally became public, many people were shocked, but I wasn't surprised anymore. I had already learned the most important lesson. Sometimes the person standing closest to you isn't always the person you should trust blindly. What surprised me most was watching my wife refuse to celebrate being proven right. She wasn't focused on revenge or recognition. She was focused on repairing the damage caused to the people who had been hurt. For the first time in months, I saw her strength clearly. Not the secretive person I had imagined, but the determined woman who had been fighting a battle she never wanted to fight alone. After everything settled, my wife and I had a conversation that changed the direction of our marriage. I told her I understood why she wanted to protect me, but protection without honesty had created a distance between us that almost destroyed everything we had built. She admitted she had convinced herself that carrying the burden alone was the loving choice, but she finally understood that marriage wasn't about one person silently sacrificing while the other remained in the dark. It was about facing difficult moments together, even when the truth was uncomfortable. We didn't fix everything overnight. There were still painful conversations, moments of doubt, and memories we had to work through. But for the first time in a long while, we were rebuilding on honesty instead of assumptions. Months later, the final court decision was announced, bringing closure to a chapter that had consumed our lives. The person responsible faced the consequences, and the families affected finally received answers. During that time, I often thought about how different everything could have been if I had reacted only with anger instead of seeking the truth. I realized that the biggest threat to our marriage wasn't the secret itself. It was the silence surrounding it. My wife had believed she was protecting our future, But she had forgotten that trust requires both people to stand in the same room, even when the storm is coming. We spent years building our relationship, and it almost collapsed because we stopped sharing the weight of our problems with each other. Looking back, the envelope on my kitchen table wasn't the end of my marriage. It was the moment everything finally came into the open. The truth hurt, but it also gave us a chance to start again with clearer eyes. I learned that betrayal doesn't always look the way we expect, and sometimes the hardest secrets come from people who believe they are doing the right thing. My wife and I are not the same couple we were before that morning. In some ways, we became stronger because we were forced to confront the things we avoided for too long. The biggest lesson I carried forward was simple. Love isn't proven when life is easy. It's proven when two people choose honesty, forgiveness, and understanding even after everything they thought they knew has changed.